to the Paper Snob. This is Tara. Today is Scraptember day number 30. This is the last day of September, therefore the last day of Scraptember. I hope that you have enjoyed this series as much as I have creating during this series. Please check out that playlist below. Everybody's videos should be on it, and they are all so amazing. You will be so inspired. Today's prompt is texture, and I am going to be using some Crackle texture paste with a couple of stencils. And I have out Rust and Rev, which is a brand new collection from 49 and Market. It is amazing. As all of their collections are, right? Am I right? And then I have a photo of my husband working on my KitchenAid. And the reason he's glaring at me in this photo is because I asked him to pretty please smile for the camera. And his response was, "Do you want me to fix this or not?" AKA, "Go away, ma'am. I'm busy." So I'm going to go ahead and pause. I'm going to get started with the mixed media so that it has time to dry. I'll be right back. So the first thing I am going to do is I'm going to use this Vicky Bouton stencil to put some beautiful stenciling on this background paper using Distress Oxide Rusty Hinge. This is an absolute favorite ink. I think I said that about all of them though, don't I? I really do love the oxide inks, and I tend to use them quite a bit. And oops, my stencil moved a little bit, but it's going to be okay even if it does have a little bit of shadowing there. So I don't know if you saw, Jasper decided he was going to jump on the table. I put him on the floor and he jumped right back up and ran across anyway. As I said, they seem to only do this when I'm recording. Also, now I'm going to use this Gear stamp or stencil, and I believe this one's from the Crafter's Workshop. I'm not positive. There's no labeling or anything on it. Normally they have like it imprinted on the stencil, but I don't think this one does. And I know that this is very, very hard to see, but this is a clear Crackle paste. And I'm just using this stencil to put a little bit of the Crackle paste over my stenciling. I'm not going to be putting any of the texture paste in the middle because I know that I'm going to be covering up a lot of that with my photo and layering. So I'm just going to get some of this stenciling on here. I do love that it is kind of making the Distress Oxide react a little bit. That's kind of cool, and it looks really cool underneath this the stenciling and the texture paste after it dries. I went ahead and I set my background behind me to dry, and I thought I'd go ahead and work on some of the layering bits and pieces for this layout. The first thing I'm doing is I'm cutting down this photo to, it's almost 4x4. This is another Groove Book photo, and I've said before, not only are they awful, but they are also missized. Sometimes they're like 4.5 by 5 3/4. Sometimes they're not. They're just weirdly sized. So I cut it down as close to 4x4 as I could get. I think it's like 4x4 1/8. And so I cut a mat using the denim side of a piece of the pattern paper. I believe I brought in 2 of the 6x8 sheets for the matting, which is what I purchased the 6x8 paper pad for, was for the matting, because I hate cutting into 12x12 sheets of 49 and Market for matting. I do, but I really would rather not. So for this one, I actually have the 6x8 paper pad, and I've been using that for matting. Not sure what I'm going to do once I run out of it. I guess the goal is to not buy yet another pack of paper. I will tell on myself here, I pre-ordered this and I picked it up at We Create earlier this month, and started using it right there on the spot. Well, I purchased the Rust and Rev collection to use for my husband's Jeep project that he did this year, and I used almost all of it except for 4 pieces of the paper, so I bought it again. Bought 2 of everything all over again, and I'm sure that I will get plenty of use out of it. I'll be mixing it up with a Mente collection called Garage, I think is the name of it. And there was a third collection that I bought, and I can't remember who it was bought by. It might be by P31. Anyway, I am just going to kind of scuff up all of the edges of the things that I know I'm going to be using. I went through all of the stuff and chose some things that I thought I would use. I also pulled in several of the scraps that I have already acquired from playing with this collection, and I'm going to use a piece of that. One of the layouts I did at We Create, I actually used the packaging for a layout. I used the squares to make a 2-page layout border along the edges, and I really like how that turned out. I will try to share that on my Instagram or something so that you can see that. Because I did it at We Create, there's no video. So what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of playing with placement of things. Again, my background is wet still, and so I'm just kind of playing around with things, trying to see what I have to make a good layer of clustering around this photo. I don't want to cover up too much of my stenciling or my texture paste, but I do want to cover up that middle that I left blank. So this is a part of one of the branding strips, and so I'm going to use it in there. And I'm just tucking things and playing around with things. I decided I was going to go ahead and take this piece here. This is part of that packaging that I was talking about, and you can see the squares over there towards the right. I didn't use all of them. You know how on the packaging it has a tiny square of every pattern paper, and I didn't use all of them on that one layout. I just used a few. So now I'm just digging through, and I'm going to kind of decide what I want to use from the laser cutouts. I think I only pull out a chain, a couple pieces of chain. The rest of it I just put back, and there's also some rivets from denim that I pull, and the rest of it I'm just going to put to the side. I also do not use the Rust and Rev baubles, the wishing baubles or whatever they call them. I don't use those at all on this layout. So I'm giving you some close-ups of that texture paste as it dried. It turned out really, really pretty. So this texture paste dries pretty quickly. I think I let it dry for about an hour. Worked on another video and came back, and it was dry enough to use. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and build this layout up the way that I showed you in the previous segment. That way you can see what it is that I'm doing. I'm just layering up some of these scraps and pieces in here, trying to use up some of the pieces that I cut from previous layouts, as well as the pieces that I chose that were new. I am currently saving every single bit of this paper until I have decided that I'm done with all of it. And the reason for that is, what if I want to do a cut file? I might need that little tiny piece of something. Let's face it, I really love 49 and Market papers, and I have a hard time letting them go. So here's where I bring in the 2 pieces of chain. I'm just going to use them as a border down here on the bottom, and pretty much I think that's all I do with this layout at this point. So I don't recall there being any labels in this collection. There usually are some in the collections, but I don't recall there being any, and so I just pulled out one of my Illustrated Faith labels to use for the journaling. And I will stick that over here, I think on the left-hand side of this layout, and call it done. All right, I got my layout completely finished. Pretty happy with all of the texture that I did add to this layout. You can add texture to your layouts in many different ways. You can use the texture paste like I did, and it's very subtle on this layout. I'll have to take close up so that you can see the detail a little bit better. You can use foam adhesive, which I do quite often. You can use layers of paper to create texture. You can create texture with stitching and paints and just about anything that you can think of to create a beautiful textured layout. I want to thank you for coming to my channel today. I hope you've enjoyed Scraptember this year. It's been fun playing along with all of these prompts all month long, and I'm quite proud that I managed to get a video out each day this week, sometimes a little late and sometimes right on time, but I made it. And I know that there are other creators who are celebrating the fact that they were able to put out a video each and every day as well. Please check out that playlist, guys. I have a lot to catch up on because I would really love to see all of these videos myself, and so I'll start watching pretty soon. But I want to thank you again for being here. Thank you for subscribing, leaving comments, giving me kudos to keep going and creating for you and for myself. I love my hobby and I love to share it with you. I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye.